All right, good afternoon and welcome. Welcome everyone. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome to those who are joining us again. Welcome. It's nice to have all of you with us here. Welcome to session 3, the importance of effective market research. To bring some greetings to you from Exim Bank, we have Mr. Sheldon Thomas. He is the marketing manager at Exim Bank. So Sheldon, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, one and all. All right, so let me jump right into it. Mr. Shedwan Collins, General Manager, U Business Trinidad and Tobago. Ms. Michelle Lau Chu Tong, Facilitator. Participants, welcome all. The Exim Bank is delighted to be a program partner for this Export Readiness Workshop Series, a timely initiative developed by YPTT to equip businesses with the knowledge and skills necessary to thrive in the global marketplace. The Exim Bank's mission is to increase national foreign exchange earnings, and we are committed to offering financing solutions tailored to the firms in the private sector to enable them to boost their capacity to export. In today's global economy, more and more businesses are looking to export their products and services. The global value of the export market was estimated to be 28.5 trillion in 2021. This represents an increase of 25% from 2020 and 13% from 2019. In Trinidad and Tobago, the export market is a major driver of the economy. According to data from the CSO, in 2022, total exports were estimated at TT 83.2 billion, which far surpasses the growth in 2019 pre-pandemic, valued at TT 48.6 billion, a 71% increase in exports. Moreover, there are approximately 400 active exporters from Trinidad and Tobago, according to the data from Export TT. This growth in exports is a testament to the work we have done with our clients and the continued effort of various ministries, business support organizations, government agencies, and growth-oriented companies. However, the work must continue to further equip our businesses and entrepreneurs to become more export-oriented. Hence our support for this Export Readiness Series hosted by YBTT. Which foreign markets offer the best chance of success for my product or service? Does it make sense to focus on a small number of key countries? Effective market research is an important exercise for any business seeking answers to the questions and more. Exporting can be a risky proposition. If you don't do your research, you could end up wasting time and money on the markets that are not right for you. That's why effective market research is essential for any business that wants to export successfully. Market research lays out the roadmap for businesses. It can help companies in various ways to identify potential markets for their products and services, understand the needs and preferences of their target market, access the competitive landscape in a given market, understand countries, cultural differences to be aware of, and the level of adaptation and preparation to enter that market. Additionally, to analyze the ease and access and the risk associated with each country. Through the expertise of the facilitator, we expect that many of the businesses and entrepreneurs at today's session to learn about how to conduct effective market research and increase their chances of success in export markets. We look forward to an interactive and engaging third session to the Export Readiness Workshop Series, and the Exim Bank continues to support the export sector and small businesses in particular to develop their capacity to reach the exporting market. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas, bringing some greetings from Exim Bank and providing some more details about this series. So guys, we have Miss Michelle Lochutong. As some of you would have met already in the previous sessions, a business coach, export coach. She has coached over 60 businesses to adapt to the new realities and go forward. She is a dynamic facilitator. So without further ado, I will welcome Michelle.
Okay, great.
Michelle?
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. A pleasure to be here again. This is our third session, the importance of effective market research. We would have had 2 sessions previously. For those of us who have been along with us for the ride from day 1, beginning June 20th, I hope that you have been, that the sessions have been very informative and it has been enlightening as it pertains to your export thrust in going forward for your business. For those who are new with us today, I hope that I'm able to share some key information that is going to inform your way forward as it pertains to market research, which is so critical as you treat with exports and export development for your business. Today, we are talking about the importance of effective market research. And with that, there are a couple of things I want to focus on this afternoon, and with the presentation highlights, it's captured on the screen. Just a quick session recap in terms of session 2, and we'd look at the build from the basic going forward in terms of market research, why market research is so important. And basically we are answering the question in terms of how, in terms of the effectiveness of market research for your exports. What is international market research? What are the objectives of the research? The difference between international market research and domestic research? Why companies need to research their potential export markets? And within there, I'll be touching on a few things that Sheldon would have mentioned during his speech to us just now. Types of market research, and mainly focusing on the 2 types of market research there, that is primary and secondary research, what to consider before starting the market research process, conducting market research. I'll just be mentioning 4 strategies that you could employ, and then leaving you with some key information in terms of sources where you can find or where you can begin your market research, both locally and regionally as well, and then after a quick summary. So from session 2, excuse me, we treated with the topic in terms of market entry strategies. And we would have looked at a number of strategies. I have here on the screen some of the strategies that we would have looked at that I spent a little bit more time on. And the first one you're seeing there is in terms of licensing. And we see that licensing allows another company in your target country to utilize your property. And that is normally in the form of your trademarks and your patents and so on. And then we also look at franchising. We also looked at joint ventures. Franchising typically requires strong brand recognition. And we know we have a lot of international brands in Trinidad, purchased by local companies, and they're up and running pretty strong, whether we are talking the food and beverage markets or even sometimes in terms of services. There was one that I wanted to share with you, and it's just not coming to me right now. If I remember, in terms of the service industry, I would share that with you. And then we looked at joint ventures. Joint ventures from the point of view in terms of you having identified your target markets and you're seeking to work with a company within that target market on the ground. They are actually residents in that targeted export market, and you have formed an alliance with them. The only thing is that that alliance means the formation of a new entity where you share the risk, right? Which is different from when you actually establish a strategic alliance. A strategic alliance is more informal. There is no entity that is formed, but it's basically 2 parties that are coming together for one particular purpose in terms of either piggybacking on their services or helping the other party within the target export markets. One of the key things we looked at in terms of market entry strategies was the area of consultancy services. And we saw that with consultancy services in the services industry, in terms of exports, a couple of things were glaring at us. And one of them, it's what you're seeing here. Depending on the type of service business that is involved, you have the movement of employees with temporarily working in a foreign country. You also have the opportunity there with that type of arrangement to also be working in your home country, but providing the service online as well. Common organizations such as tax advisors, website designers, architects, engineers, accountants, these are the type of companies that can easily, most of the time, from a service perspective, enter a new market pretty quickly. Right, they don't have to worry. You don't have to worry in terms of you being a service business about logistical issues from getting the product, looking at shipping and all of the imports and all of that sort of thing. And one of the key things in terms of services, consultancy services, is that you can withdraw from a market relatively cheaply and rather easily, right? Also, we ended off the session in terms of looking at selecting the right market entry. And we saw where this involved a number of factors, both internal and external, and it was pointing us now to market research and getting ourselves prepared for entry into the new market by utilizing the vehicle that is market research. And this is where we are at today, and this is where we are going to kick off our market research presentation. So why market research is important? Quality market research gives you the export advantage. And that in itself is very important. And I will underscore that again. Quality market research gives you an export advantage. Sometimes there's an old adage that says, some information is better than none. That could be actually very costly if you're an exporter and you're looking at entry into a new market, because you may not necessarily be utilizing that. Some information may not necessarily be the best information in order for you to make a business decision, and you could end up making a costly mistake. And I can give you an example. There is so much that is happening in terms of Guyana right now. It seems as if that's the place to be. That's where everybody, wants to get in. But you may have a particular product and you want to get into that market. But without doing the proper market research, there would be a company, let's say even there's a conglomerate, I think it's Edward B. Harry, that is involved in financial services, to fast food, automotive, and all of that. And it could be that that is one of the products that you have and that you want to put out there. You are looking, if you do not do the right research, you could find yourself coming up against this giant in this market that is already there, already has an expanded footprint and a loyal brand. Can you really and truly compete? Is that really the market for you? Did you do all of the, did you really, push through in terms of the research and do all that was necessary, right? So right there, you can see that you can possibly be making a bad decision for your business by just having a little bit of information and decide that, yes, we are going forward because, this is it. This is where everything is happening now, and I want to be there in terms of my company. Conversely, you could also, as an exporter, you could receive some negative information, and you could also make a decision on terms of that negative information. If we look at a market such as Haiti, a lot of companies will think that Haiti doesn't have the kind of purchasing power. I can't see me doing any business in Haiti. Haiti has 11.6 million people, but 10% of that 11.6 is actually the population size of Trinidad and Tobago. And within that 10%, within that population size, they are middle to high income earners. So it might very well be a market that you might want to put some focus on, but because you have received negative information or you haven't done the kind of research that is necessary in terms of the markets, you would have been bypassing an opportunity. So all of that to say to you, it is very important for you to really focus on obtaining quality market research. And the fact is, the more information and intelligence you have on a market, the more likely you are able to reduce mistakes and enter the markets, quickly and smoothly as well. the more information you have also helps with better decision making in the first instance in terms of your market entry, and so you're able to move forward. But I also want to tell you that market research is not something that is cheap. Your secondary market research, you know, it might be at the lower end in terms of cost, but when you're looking at making decisions in terms of accessing a new market and doing business in that market and beginning to export, you're going to need a certain type of research that you may not even be able to get, you know, online. And I will give you some more information about that as we go forward. So international market research is a blanket term for all the research and preparation you do on a new market, usually before entering it. And that's it in a nutshell, right? There are various, many different methods and stages involved in international market research. And in many cases, individual methods and techniques are the same in terms of the type of methods of research that you will carry out in your own domestic market. But overall, what you'll be doing is really the international market research is focusing on that targeted export market, trying for you to get as much information as possible to ensure that you're able to export and export successfully, and as well as in terms of it being sustainable. And just in terms of a definition, international market research is a systematic design, collection, recording, analysis, interpretation, and reporting of information relating to a particular marketing decision facing a company operating internationally. And this works for us also in terms of us, you know, from Trinidad to within the region and extra-regionally as well. And what really are the objectives of market research? You want to be able to understand your customers. It's a way of understanding the new overseas market that you're thinking of entering before you launch your product or your services, right? Again, you want to understand your target customers in that market. You want to be able to identify any challenges, and you want to be able to get familiar with your competitors and anything else that will boost your chances for success in that market, and also for you to avoid unpleasant surprises in terms of getting into the markets. And going even further in terms of the objectives, you want to be able to minimize risk. Doing any type of exports, there is going to be risk involved, and you want to be able to minimize risk. And that is what market research will do once you're doing it right. And it's focused at the end of the day, meaning that you know what you're doing, right? It is going to be able to minimize the risk. The fact is, you wouldn't walk into a shop selling, let's say, fine china with a blindfold on. You'll want to study that room and move accordingly. And it's the same thing in terms of your market research. You want to use the market research to minimize the risk of entering a market that is already saturated, or where there's possibly no demand, or where you wouldn't make a profit at the price point you're offering. At the end of the day, with market research, you know, the world could actually become your oyster. So you need to get to know your customers across different cultures. And culture is a serious thing. You know, we have this thing in the region where, you know, it's one CARICOM. Yes, it's one CARICOM. But at the end of the day, we are different countries, and we do have different nuances in terms of how we do business on the ground in different markets. And if you're going into Guyana and you're going into Jamaica, doing business, even in Latin America, you have to understand and be aware of the cultural sensitivities in terms of how you do business in that market, right? There is also opportunities there in terms of market research for you to identify business opportunities as well. And that's one of the key reasons why you are actually doing the market research as well. And then, of course, you want to optimize spending and your margins, because if you're unable to do that, then what's the point of all of this, you know? So the thing with the market research is that don't just look forward. You want to be able to look back to and see how the market has developed, what market trends have passed, and how did people react to them. and what are the usual growth rates for the businesses, similar like yours. So there are different things that you would want to find out in terms of how you focus your market research on the particular target market. Okay. How is international market research different from domestic market research? And there are several key differentiating factors between the domestic market research and the international market research. The factors when you're entering a market, it will have social and cultural differences. The domestic market research is already difficult, but at the end of the day, the vast differences between your home country and the target country is what makes the market research much more challenging in many ways. But it is something that you must do, because at the end of the day, the more research that you do is, you're putting yourself or setting yourself up, setting your company up for success. I said it in the first session, and I may have repeated it in the second session, but exporting is a long game. And market research is a crucial part of you building out that export strategy for success for your business, right? So in terms of the difference between the market research, international market research, and the domestic market research is that sometimes with the international market research, there may be more restrictions around the gathering of that research, right? So in addition to the cultural and social differences, the target export market could also have legal differences that you need to be very much aware of, right? While you might have a good understanding of how the law works as it relates to market research, the reality is that in the overseas market, it may be very different. And that difference could impact, your success or failure within that market. So a lot of work needs to be done there. Especially when you start thinking about IP and how your intellectual property would be impacted in the targeted export markets. It requires much more investment than we think in terms of market research in the overseas markets. It's going to cost you to get it done, and not only cost you, but you also need to now be aware of where you can go to get support in terms of getting the kind of a market intelligence that you require in order for you to make the best business decision as it pertains to entering the particular target markets. And there are resources locally, as I mentioned earlier, and there are resources, other resources that you can tap into as well. In addition to that, whereas those that may be free to a certain extent, it very well mean in terms of market research that you have to put out some funds in order for you to get the kind of targeted research and focused research, I should say, that is required for you to make the best business decision. Now, why companies need to research their potential export markets? And we mentioned before, and you heard it, even Sheldon would have mentioned it, the differences in culture. The fact is that the culture of your overseas target market may be similar to yours, but it could also be completely different. Failing to adequately research the culture of your target market could result in serious blunders, which could seriously harm your market entry as well as your brand reputation. And that is it in a nutshell and about, in terms of the bottom line. You need to pay attention as it pertains to culture, right? And how people do things. You have to look at product adaptation as it pertains to the cultural environment within the target markets. You have to look at the name of simply in terms of the name of the product, whether when that name is translated, maybe it's not English, it's a non-English speaking country. When it's translated, it means something, it doesn't mean something that is negative as it pertains to the market that you're trying to enter. You need to look at your labeling as well to ensure that it conforms to the, to the labeling requirements within the markets. Sometimes we want to be so, really good in terms of how we position our product into the market, that just the little details is what we overlook, and then that will cost us at the in the end at the end of the day. So we need to be very, very sensitive in terms of culture. All right. And then I mentioned before the differences in laws and regulations. Laws and regulations don't just have an impact on your market research methods. They can affect every part of your market entry process and how you conduct your business in the new markets. So if you are entering a new market without a comprehensive understanding of the law and its relation to your activities, you risk ending up being in some legal trouble. Right? So there are legal pitfalls that you may want to consider when entering the markets. And some of these examples would be that, you need to understand the environmental regulations as it pertains to the market. There are tax laws, laws that pertain to even hiring, new staff. On top of this, rules can change quickly. And what was completely legal 5 years ago may not be legal right now. So in terms of you obtaining research online, you also have to pay particular attention in terms of how dated that research is, and have to actually, get additional information to ensure that the research is recent and that you are making a decision based on, research that is available and is as recent as possible, so that you don't find yourself in problems. The third thing we would look at is differences in customer preferences. Now, customers in one country may have a completely different preference to those in another. And this can be due, again, to cultural issues, but it can also result from other factors. Just a little technical difficulty here. Just give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. It's now started to move again. Right, so yes, so this can be due to cultural issues, but it can also result from other factors as well. I do business in China and other markets in Asia. And I remember when, many decades ago, and this is not, I shouldn't say I remember when, this is stories that were told to me when I started doing business there 12 years ago. And they said, my colleague was telling me, they started, they had opened up, the Chinese government had opened up, basically the market where people could have, just purchase homes on an ongoing basis. And you had the likes of Home Depot from the US going into the markets and just setting up shop. And within a very short space of time, they had to close. I think it was within maybe 5 or 6 years, they had to close up shop. And because they did not understand the customer buying behaviors of the Chinese people, where they actually set up their locations, and they just kept getting it wrong. So that was a lot of capital investment, but not taking the time to understand the cultural nuances as it exists within the markets. And basically just keep thinking that, what applies in North America can apply there, because even the advertising that they were doing in the markets was more, leaning towards, the North American customer versus the Chinese customer. So they learned a very, very hard lesson at the end of the day, but they have never returned to China. So just a little example, in terms of how you do things. Another thing as well, another example as well I can give you in terms of regionally, even persons that are doing business in Guyana right now. Yes, they have all of these oil finds and so, but Guyana's population size is maybe just about 800,000 from the last census. But we also have to remember that, their disposable income is not the same as Trinidadian firms. And whereas we are accustomed purchasing, our groceries and different products and so in large sizes, there's still they are still within a situation where they're purchasing, smaller size packages in terms, whether it's food, whether it's laundry, or, or whatever it is. So a company that is thinking to export to Guyana, that is something that you have to look at the end of the day. You don't just say, well, okay, in Trinidad, this is what we do. And we just, you just jump into the markets and want to apply the same kind of products there. You have to understand the market. You have to connect with a local partner, someone who understands the landscape, the business landscape there, and more so in terms of the sector that you're focusing on. And then, of course, couple that with an in-market visit for yourself to try and get a handle as to what's happening, on the ground. So culture, once again, and customer preferences is very important. Another big thing is in terms of understanding the competition. Very essential for you to understand who you are competing against, and more importantly, how have they been able to succeed at the end of the day, right? What is it exactly, what exactly is it that their customers like about your competitors? What keeps them coming back? What has allowed them to gain and maintain a hold in your target markets, right? That is, basically key questions that your market research needs to answer so that you can then utilize that information and try and see where the gap is in the markets and where you can create a niche for yourself and, go forward in terms of your export development within that particular market. Or conversely, don't go forward and focus on another market at the end, at the end of the day. So quite a bit to take into consideration. And we are still in, trying to understand, why companies need to research their potential target markets, export markets. So we need to look at risk mitigation. Market research allows you to mitigate your risk by being as prepared as possible for the myriad challenges involved in entering a foreign market, right? Entering a new market overseas will never be risk-free, but research allows you to minimize that risk. At the end of the day, you want to better understand the target customer that you want to sell your product to, and you have to be prepared to take on the competition. You also need to ensure that you're avoiding any legal issues, and more than that, you need to have a viable export strategy, and the market research informs your export strategy as well, in addition to the development of your export plan. Logistical challenges. So the logistical challenges involved in entering a foreign market can be really large. And you need to do things like select and evaluate your suppliers. If you're going in there and you're probably setting up a joint venture or a physical presence within the market, you're opening up a subsidiary, you need to hire new staff. You need to understand what is involved in terms of staff, either acquiring staff in the export market or, staff from the home country now having to go to work in the export, the target export markets, right? How what is the challenges involved in terms of finding appropriate premises? Sometimes that takes a very long time. You have to understand the payments procedures and financial infrastructure as it exists in that particular market, and then you want to comply with import and export regulations and much more. On many occasions, companies who are looking at getting into new export markets, once you have identified the markets through your market research, you tend to bring on an attorney who is pretty okra in terms of doing business in that particular market, as well as an advisor, to ensure that you are, hitting all of the right things as it pertains to the export regulations and more in terms of the market. And I can give you an example where this is very important in terms of companies operating in the packaging sector, right? And this whole thing in terms of, the ban on styrofoam, we have seen, where a lot of countries in the region, do have this ban on styrofoam. However, things, it's not that you're going back to styrofoam, but there are some changes as it pertains to the use of plastics and the type of plastics as well. And if you are getting there and you want to export, let's say what we call green packaging, you must spend time understanding the export regulations as it pertains to entry into that market. And one of the key markets I know for sure that you need to do that for is Barbados and Belize at the end of the day. You need to prepare a solid strategy and a budget. Nobody is looking to get into any export market without having a solid export strategy and having the kind of capital financing that is required for you to go into the markets, promote your product, whether jointly with an intermediary like a distributor or with your strategic alliance partner if you're a service company. But the fact of the matter is that funding must be readily available. But you need to be able to budget for that. You need to, and normally as part of your export plan, which is your roadmap for exporting, you will have that have to prepare an export budget as part of your export plan. Fact is, market research allows you to understand the costs of your new markets, including unexpected costs as well, and you will have those. Right? It also helps you anticipate the obstacles and challenges and flesh out your strategy in a way that will boost your chances of success. And finally, we have here, find available marketing channels, right? And we need to understand that because having the right product is great. You have developed your export strategy, and so, but you need to be able to market and promote this product within the targeted export market. So finding the right marketing channels for your product is important. And that is even if you have found the best distributor, you as a company still need to understand the lay of the land within the export market, right? And what works and what doesn't work. So the market research still has to be done at the end of the day. Because you can't simply just be, handing over your product to a distributor carte blanche and just expect everything to just magically work, and then you rock back and receive payment when you send your goods. You have to be thinking about your brand. You have to be thinking about the longevity of doing business within that target market as well. And another area as well in terms of, what type of relationship you are building, whether it is with a sales agent, a strategic partner, or a distributor in that market, or distributors as it pertains to market size and so on. So market research is a great way to identify your marketing channels and approaches that typically work well for similar products in your target market. You want to understand that because you need to understand how you are going to position yourself in that market, right? Helping you plan an effective market strategy that will boost your chances of success from the very beginning. Okay, very, 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 very important. Right. So now let's take a look at the two types of market research. And the two types of market research is really secondary market research and primary market research. And here we are looking at secondary market research, which is great to lay the groundwork in terms of the market research process. However, I would like to guide you in terms of not just doing one type of market research. Secondary research and primary market research really and truly should be done together, giving you a good grounding as it pertains to the markets and a good understanding. And then when you couple that with an in-market visit for you to do your own prospecting of the potential target markets, then you're really setting yourself up in terms of developing a solid export strategy for your business going forward. But in terms of secondary research, this is something that you can do yourself, you can start off. It's pretty low cost because it's basically you looking at research information that is already out there, that it's already produced. And in most instances, you're looking at, trade statistics and trade data and, by country and in terms of your product, you're looking at information that is already out there. So it's not necessarily focused directly on your particular product, but it is giving you information so that you understand the industry, understand the sector, understand what is taking place on the ground. Sometimes with secondary research, you may be able to find some information as it pertains to competition data on the ground, but we need to be a little bit more direct and utilize primary research in that regard. So the results from secondary research may also be broader than your company's niche, making it difficult sometimes to inform your business decisions. And that's the reason why I said both primary and secondary, you need to do both types of research in order for you to get the kind of results that you're looking for. On the other hand, in terms of primary research, often done in terms of studying your customers, right? So because the primary research is really designed to meet your unique and specific needs, and it is a fundamental research that is conducted by you. Yeah, it's basically your budget now in terms of you either hiring a small research firm to assist you, because now the research is more targeted as it pertains to your particular product and how it is being looked at within the particular export market. So there's some funds in there there's funding now that comes into play. The factors with this type of primary research is where you will probably do like surveys, you can do online surveys, you can do actual focus groups, have observations done, and with these focus groups, and so you're asking specific questions that will help you design the information so that design the product if you're now building one for that particular market, or product adaptation or product modification as it pertains to entry into the market for the customers that you are targeting. So let's say if you can hire a research firm and they are going to utilize particular statistical models, and so to come up with maybe a sample group that is representative of your target audience within the markets and make the research more relevant to your business, right? So as I said before, the primary market research coupled with the secondary market research is a winner. And when you add to that exploratory research on the ground, which is your in-market research in terms of a visit, that really, really works wonders. So some things to consider before starting the market research process. And I just put this here because I wanted you to keep these things top of the mind. Markets change, right? If you do international market research just once, you kind of have a static picture of what that market was once like. It isn't necessarily, what is happening at present, but it certainly is going to give you an idea as to what is happening in the market. And even with that, even with the now, you acquire the market research now, but it's going to be utilized, let's say 6 months down the road, it is still going to be dated, and you're still going to need to update that if it's going to impact you so significantly, depending on the type of product that you're seeking to get into the export markets. Sometimes inside information is best. When it comes to international market research, make sure you're talking to the right people, meaning that you're talking to the right people on the ground in the potential export market. So whether that would be, like suppliers, manufacturers, even in terms of business journalists, because also, let's say if you are forming some sort of joint venture or strategic alliance, you want to ensure that you have the kind of information on that, on the potential party that you are getting in bed with, so to speak, to ensure that their brand reputation is what it is, so that when the two entities, come together, everything is great in terms of perception and in terms of the brand. All right, and the fact is, you're doing the market research. Once you have you have an export plan, or you're working towards developing an export plan, let the results of the research that you are receiving at that point in time, act on it, let it impact your decision making to keep you on the path of your export development growth. Okay, so just a few things for you to consider. So 4 simple strategies in terms of conducting market research. And the first one I have here is about talking to local exports and potential markets. And I just thought a bit about that, because sometimes you have the data, you have done your research, you have done your secondary research, you may even have some primary research information, but something isn't gelling, it's just not connecting. And you want to be able to make a decision, but you're still uncertain. You can speak to local experts in the target export markets. And as I was saying before, you can speak to suppliers, economic experts, manufacturers, and so on. You also want to dive into secondary data from governments, okay, because it's very important. We do have many of the countries that you may want to export to. Trade agreements exist. Trade agreements gives you an advantage. You would want to do some research to find out, if Trinidad and Tobago has a trade agreement with that particular country, and what is in there for you if you decide to export your product as well. So I will share some information in terms of sources just now. And then you want to talk to your consumers utilizing online surveys, right? The fact is, online surveys, it works. But if it is that you're looking at targeting a country where, there's a lot of internet issues, don't expect a lot in terms of a great results coming out of your online survey. And even more than that, even if the country has no internet issues, the fact is, online surveys, the hit rate as it pertains to online surveys is not great. 20% of the total population size that was disseminated in terms of the survey, if you get that back, that's fantastic. You say, wow, great, right? And then again, from a primary research perspective, more focus groups as you try and delve deep into the customer that you're targeting within the particular export markets. Right. So I'm now at the juncture where I want to be able to share some of the some information with you in terms of how you can access some market research information that would help you while you yourself continue, whether it's within your business or otherwise, to put together your secondary market research. And the first source that I have here is Export TT. Export TT has a research and opportunity department, and all of these ticks that you're seeing here is the type of research that they're able to provide for you, right? They can identify competitor markets, determine the demand both in value and quantity in terms of those markets, determine the duties to be paid, identify the applicable trade agreements that exist, and determine whether or not your product will qualify. They can also help you in terms of determining your market entry requirements, and more importantly, provide forecasts for market size and growth. And provide information on the legal and regulatory framework, including IP, regulations, brand registration, and company registration within your target markets. So some key things. Also, they might be able to help you with identifying key distributors and buyers and provide you with that type of information. Export TT has access to the largest amount of market intelligence on global markets in Trinidad and Tobago. Right? So they have subscriptions for like Euromonitor, Dunn Street and Bradshaw. I could be getting that wrong, but you know, they really Panjiva, they really have access to this. So you don't want to discount them as a source if you are, you know, looking at getting some market research information. The other entity locally would be the Trinidad and Tobago Coalition of Services Industries if you're a service-based company. You may be aware that TTCSI really, their members are really association or bodies. So if you are an individual company, you have to be attached to that particular association who is a member of TTCSI. I'm not sure, I tried to call today, I just didn't get through to find out whether or not, you know, as an individual company, service company, if you can go to them directly. Well, more information to come in that regard. But they do provide market research. They have been doing an amazing job as it pertains to services locally. So TTSI can determine the viability of your services through surveying potential customers. They provide market intelligence, business-to-business connection facilitation, and then of course they have the National Services Exporters Portal. So that is something, if you are a service business, that you may want to, you know, get yourself on that portal, get your business registered in that portal. The services portal, you know, it helps service providers and firms gain access to new markets, increase their visibility, and obtain valuable business support services and resources. So the URL is there for them, the email as well, you know, get on it in terms of, and start the conversation as it pertains to getting the assistance you require from a market research perspective. So some resources as well in terms of regionally, CARICOM, Secretariat Statistic Departments, in terms of providing regional trade statistics, very, very important, because you would want to know if you are want to export a particular product, how that product, you know, what's the value of the imports coming into that target market for that particular product. And most of the time they're going to use the HS code in order to be able to pull that information for you. You have the Center for the Promotion of Imports, another one where you can actually download market studies. And so, and you know, there's a lot happening there. If you're looking at the EU as a market, there's the EU Export Help Desk, and you're able to get information here. Well, of course, ITC. Your site contains information on international trade and market profiles, trade statistics and prices. You're able to pull information from there as well. If Canada is a market for you, TFO Canada, and you can see here, you know, what types of information that you are able to get from that particular site. And then, of course, we can't discount Caribbean Export Development Agency. They have the Caribbean Export Market Intelligence Portal. Again, it's available. You need to, you know, just go onto their sites and see if you can access it. Any problems, you can send an email and I'm sure they're going to get right back to you. I mentioned trade agreements, very important for whether you're in services or products. You know, the economic partnership agreement there that was signed with the EU. That was signed, I think, in 2019, and there have been a lot of conversations in terms of that that is happening, and you would want to understand that as a service provider as well. And then the other site that's under the trade agreements, under the economic partnership agreement, is a site sice.oas. If you wanted a list of trade agreements that Trinidad and Tobago has with different countries, you can actually obtain that there. And then, of course, CROSSQ, the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards. At the end of the day, you would want to know from a standards perspective, you know, how your product stands up to scrutiny as it pertains to the potential export market that you want to get into. So, you know, check them out online and see what information that you can get. If you're focusing on the Dominican Republic and the DR as a possible target market, that is a link there that you'd be able to target, where you can reach out to this particular government office and be able to get some information. And even if you can't, even if you reach out and there is no response from some of these agencies, what you would want to do is to connect with Export TT in Trinidad. or TTCSI and have them make the connection with these agencies on your behalf. All right, so think about it. So just quickly, in terms of the market research summary, I just wanted to share a few things with you. Steps to conducting market research. You want to start with setting a goal and defining what you want to know. Very, very important. Most of the time, we really start from the customer perspective. And then, of course, we want to know in terms of the industry. Because at the end of the day, we want to create a plan and we have to include various research methods. All right, many of us, you know, we don't, that's not our forte in terms of research, but there is something that we can do and then other things that we would want to get, help with. The main factors involved in market research is that you really need to dig into your competitors. You want to know what the size of the market is. You want to understand the market trends as it pertains to your product or service within the market. Spoke about the cultural differences. You need to analyze that. And of course, be aware of the legal and political factors and make sure you get to know your suppliers and your distribution channels within the markets. And the benefits of market research is just a lot. It's numerous. And I think by now you understand why market research is important and that you must do this in order to be successful. But a big factor is that, you know, minimizing risk and maximizing success. And it will also help you in terms of how you adapt your marketing to fit the local market and position your company, your company's product for success. And of course, to operate at the most beneficial prices, which will, you know, impact your profitability positively. So with that said, that is the end of this particular session. I know it was a lot as usual. And I hope that I've given you, you know, much food for thought this afternoon as it pertains to market research.
Yes, thank you very much, Michelle. I think I didn't see any questions. So any questions in the chat? I think you were thorough as thorough could be. So guys, if you have any questions, still feel free to drop them in the chat. We are here. We've also linked the feedback form, so if you could just drop some feedback for us, it will be appreciated. And while you're doing that, just to give you an update of our next session is on the 25th of July. All right, that's next week at 10:35, same link. All right, just to give you some insight about our panel, we will have on our panel Miss Lisa Marie Danielle, General Manager of Fashion TT, Mr. Navin Dukaran, CEO Exim Bank, Dan Raj Hari Prasad, General Manager Client Services Export TT, Mr. Devdat Maharaj, Executive Director Caribbean Export Development Agency, and Ms. Aurelia Bruce, Senior Trade Specialist at Ministry of Trade and Industry. Our session will be moderated by Rachel Rennie, Managing Director of the Market Movers. All right. So I'm seeing we have some questions coming in here. So yes, the session is being recorded, and at the end of the series, we'll be sending it to you all. Michelle, we have another question. If you had to quantify percentage of budget allocation for market research for firms, what would it be?
That's a pretty difficult question for me to give an answer to in a blanket way. That's highly dependent on the company, dependent on the product, dependent on the markets, and the type of export strategy as well. I'm sorry, I can't see how I could provide that in such a blanket way.
Yes, I think that's a tough question to answer as well. I didn't see any other questions. We're just seeing some thank yous coming in. So, all right. So if there are no more questions, thank you everyone for joining us. Remember, we'll be here next week Tuesday, right, at 10:35. All right, Michelle, thank you so much again for sharing your expertise with us. It has been truly an informative session today, and then the last couple of sessions as well. So guys, again, we send the link to give us some feedback. It is on the chat there. I could just drop it again, just in case you missed the message. All right, I'm dropping it again now. So you can just click the link and give us some feedback. Again, we'll see you here next Thursday, 10:35. Michelle, thank you so much for all of your insights for the past couple of weeks. Very much appreciated. And guys, we'll see you there at 10:35 next week. Do you have anything to add, Michelle?
I just want to say thank you. It has been a real pleasure sharing this information. Of course, more time is always something, but at the end of the day, I hope it was, insightful and that's useful in terms of going forward as you develop your export strategies and focus on export development for your companies. So it was a pleasure, and thanks again to everyone, including everyone on the Export TT team, as well as having Exim Bank on board as a major sponsor for such a great initiative. I'm so happy to be part of it. So I'm wishing everyone, a good night and thanks again. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Jonathan.
All right, so confirmation,
Okay.
Michelle, we're seeing all of the thank yous there. Indeed, it was great information. So guys, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you there.
Take care. Bye. Bye-bye.